I'm watching a YouTube short. Actually, it's just a clip from a longer interview. Andrew Schulz, co-host heated debate with Russ about lying rappers. I'll try to keep it short. I'm listening to individuals on this podcast debate about the accountability that certain hip hop artists have for basically rapping or making music about things that are not positive. And the context with which they're describing that is they're pushing a negative stereotype or a negative narrative. Now, everybody tells stories, right? The best storytellers either tell you something in such a fantastic way that the most unbelievable shit sounds believable, or they are able to recreate real life situations, false representations of real life things that happen outside in a way where you believe that they truly experienced that, even if they didn't. And that's across all media art forms. With regards to storytelling, the more fantastic job you do telling your story, the more believable in some instances it is. So it's difficult for me to listen to these people speak about hip hop, the musical part of the hip hop culture, in a way where there's more social accountability to a hip hop artist than there is to the writer of Goodfellas or the writer of American Me, when they're simply telling stories. These characters, some of them may be real. Some of these stories may be based on true things. Some of them may be completely made up. And they're just caricatures of stereotypes in a certain culturally relevant group, such as Italian Americans and the mafia, or Mexican Americans and gang life, or that type of street culture for Mexican Americans. I don't believe that there's any more or less culpability in that space, because although hip hop has an element of reality that's in it, we are telling stories about things that are actually happening in our community. I don't believe that those stories have the burden of responsibility that causes them to say, okay, you're responsible for the death of all these people because you're talking about what happens in these communities on a daily basis. That to me is asinine. That to me is crazy. That the example that they used in this clip was Future. And the idea that Juice WRLD said to Future, I started doing lean because you talked about doing lean in your music. How in the hell does that make Future responsible just because the person who said it is placing the responsibility at Future's feet? If that is the metric that we're measuring accountability and responsibility, then that means there should be a cause for Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, any of these media art forms and outlets that someone who commits a real crime because they were exposed to or absorbed and decided to imitate what they saw or took part in, then that means they're all responsible. And that means that you should never put out content without a disclaimer or without stating in your actual expression that this isn't real. Influence is influence, and you can't stop that. And influence actually drives consumption. If you did not influence your crowd one way or the other, they wouldn't be fans. Period. Now, that influence may just be you're influencing me to buy more of your music. Your influence may be me buying into the character or the culture with which you are expressing. But influence is influence. So once we start to police what is being marketed as influence, you're starting to put yourself down a slippery slope, because that means satire. You know, when you see Saturday Night Live and they're making fun of culturally relevant, although immoral, situations that are happening in real life, making fun of racist, having racial tropes and things of that nature, like they're funny when they're not funny. Like you're creating a situation where, so where's the line of responsibility and accountability when it comes to artistic expression? Who can you blame and who is just telling a story? Who's responsible for what they put out and who's not? I don't like that because of the scale with which hip hop has influence on the world right now. We're an easy target. Hip hop is an easy target. And I say we because, one, I grew up in the culture. I was a b-boy. I've put out music. So I'm not speaking from, I'm a creative. Whether I'm super successful or not, I just understand the mindset and the mind frame of somebody who's creating something from whatever space they're creating it from. Whether it's I'm reflecting on my own life, I'm telling a story that I saw happen outside my life, or this is just some fantastical shit that I want to say because I think it sounds dope. And it's a crazy glass house to throw stones from when you're saying, well, my shit is this and this, and these people, they're talking about this. Listen, if we're frauds, everybody who tells a story is a fraud. Every artistic expression that gets blamed for some real ill shit that happens in real life imitating art, they're all accountable. So don't say we can't draw a parallel, because either we can and we're all responsible, and then we're going to just talk about expression, artistic expression, period, or we're not going to talk about any of it at all. No, you're not going to single out hip hop. That's the crazy shit to me, to hear these people actually talk about it, because, some of these people may engage in artistic expression that has a negative connotation to it. And if somebody took what they did in a way that they didn't mean for it to be taken and did some crazy shit and then came back and said, well, Andrew Schulz or Russ or Akash or whoever it is that's on his panel that's spewing that dumb shit, if they took what you said and did some crazy shit to it and then blamed you, are you going to take accountability for it? Are you going to change what you do that you use to feed your family and feed your desire to create content and just who you are, your identity as a artist? Are you going to change what you do because this person took what you said a way that you didn't mean for it to be taken and used it and as fuel to do some stupid shit that may have cost their life or someone else's life? Is that going to make you change what you do? Do I think that it's crazy that Future, I think it's crazy ill that he can make songs about doing drugs like that are so vivid that you can't tell that he didn't do those drugs. That to me is talent. No, I don't think that it's the best thing, but I also don't think it's the best thing to let your children be raised by music or any type of art. And saying that, oh, because you're 19 and you're easily influenced, yeah, and it's your dumbass fault for being easily influenced. Period. If nothing absolves you once you're of the age to be held accountable for your actions, if you decide because you listen to Future that doing lean sounds fun, then don't come back if lean fucks you up and say, Future, it's your fault that I'm doing lean because you made it sound so fun. You still had to make a choice. Did you do research to find out the side effects of lean before you started doing it? How about this? I was a kid. I watched my dad drink Seagram's Extra Dry Gin out the bumpy bottle. So if I start drinking Seagram's, which I did because I didn't know anything else to drink, so I drank what I saw my father drink. If I become an alcoholic, do I then go back to my father and say, yeah, I started drinking gin because I saw you drink it, Dad. It's your fault that I'm an alcoholic and that I got liver cirrhosis and I'm going to die. No, that doesn't make any sense. So don't try to put any extra sauce on what you want to blame hip hop for, because if that's the case, again, then we're going to change the metric and we're going to change the narrative, and we're going to talk about all artistic expression in the same manner with which you want to talk about hip hop. Because we're telling stories. Whether those stories are nonfiction or fiction, they're telling stories. Nobody starts a fiction story by saying, hey, this ain't real. No, they tell a story. You pick a genre. The genre is fiction. So off the top, you know that that's not real. If you're listening to hip hop and you're taking what these people are saying as this is nonfiction rap, like, sounds like you need some more influences and some more voices going along in your life to help you discern what's real and what's not. It's entertainment. Now, I grew up in a household where my father was the biggest influence in my life, no matter what music I listened to. If I listened to NWA as a kid, I'm less afraid of what's going to happen outside if people don't think that I'm NWA, and more concerned about what my father thinks if he thinks I'm gonna walk outside with my pants around my ass and talking some shit that I ain't even about. So if we're really having this discussion and we're going to talk about accountability, then let's actually talk about who should be held accountable. Because we could stop a lot of dollars in a lot of people's pocket if we try to say, well, your art is not socially responsible. Your messages that you're pushing are not socially responsible, fiction or not. Because influence is influence, whether the source is real or not. People play Grand Theft Auto. That's obviously a video game. But it's motherfuckers out here buying AKs trying to live that life. That's all.